Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, today our guest is William Rand. William Rand is the president of the International Center for Reiki Training. You can find out more about his work at reiki.org. Welcome, William.
Oh, thank you. Yes, glad to be here.
Now, I met William in person recently here in Atlanta. Even though I have taught Reiki and practiced Reiki for 18 years, I was very eager to learn Usui Holy Fire Reiki. But I want to start for our audience, William. Can you explain what exactly is Reiki?
Sure. Yeah, Reiki is a process for stress reduction and relaxation that also promotes healing. And it's done with the hands. And so there is energy, even from people who don't have Reiki, there is some energy coming from our hands, but Reiki is a method of, you call laying on of hands. And so it's that type of healing. And it makes use of what we call life force energy. And so our body, everything that's alive actually has life force energy in it. And when our life force is strong and healthy, then we're going to be healthy and strong also. We're less likely to get sick. We'll have plenty of energy, be more confident and so forth. But if we haven't got enough sleep and our diet's really bad and other things go on, then our life force starts to diminish and gets lower. And so we're more prone to getting sick, and we just don't have the strength or ability that we would normally have. So a method of building up our life force energy, making it much stronger than usual. And so because of that, it enhances the immune system. It helps people to be less sick and or hopefully not sick at all. And then if people are sick, it helps people get well faster. It works in conjunction with regular medical practice. So if a person is seeing a doctor, in addition, they can get Reiki sessions. So we don't recommend people not see a doctor. We recommend that they do, and in addition, receive Reiki.
Now, I think that's really important that you talk about how one of the major benefits of Reiki is that it increases a person's life force energy. If I'm doing a medical intuitive reading, literally the first thing I do is I read a person's total life force. Because the greater your chi is, the more free flow of prana there is in your body, the higher your level of your vitality, and the more able your body will be to heal if you experience disease or an accident. Now, William, can you explain for our audience, how does Reiki actually work?
Yeah, well, Reiki is something that's very easy to acquire. Now, I have studied with a Karuna, and I've studied with the Rosicrucians, and so I've studied other healing systems. And those other systems, it takes quite a long time to develop skill as a healer, sometimes months or even years to get good. But with Reiki, there's something very interesting that takes place called the attunement. We also call them placements or ignitions, and it's a sort of a ritual process in which your Reiki is turned on. So within each person, dormant for a lot of people, there is the Reiki energy, the healing energy. And so the attunement, or what we call the placement also, or ignition, will actually turn on a person's Reiki. So immediately you'll have healing energy in your hands. And so this is done in class. There's training in class and so forth, but the main feature would be the attunement or the placement or ignition, which takes about a half hour or so to do, and it turns on the person's Reiki. So it's quite easy to learn to do it. So that, I think that's one of the miraculous things of Reiki, that you so easily can have the ability just by getting the attunement or placement or ignition.
I know I've had experiences with my clients where I simply draw the Reiki symbols in my hands, and then your hands become warm. It's like flipping a switch.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, even before getting symbols, like in level 1 Reiki, there are no symbols, but in taking level 1, you just put your hands on someone with the idea of healing. The energy just starts up and your hands get warm and the person can feel it, or you can put them on yourself. You can actually do Reiki on yourself. And that's one of the really interesting things about Reiki also. In other types of healing, it's somewhat more difficult to heal yourself, but with Reiki, it's very easy. Just put your hands on yourself and the Reiki starts flowing automatically.
Yeah. And I think the other benefit is that when a person is giving a Reiki session, so somebody comes to me or somebody comes to you for a Reiki session, we're literally channeling Reiki energy so that we receive the benefit of healing energy also as we're channeling that Reiki to our clients.
That is correct. Yeah, that's another benefit. You give a session, like in other types of healing, what happens is you've got to like build up your healing energy by breathing and by meditation and visualizations and so forth, build it up. And then when you heal, you discharge it and your healing energy goes down. But with Reiki, you're channeling it. It comes down through the crown chakra and through other chakras in the body, out the hands. And it's not your energy, it's energy flowing into you, through you, and out to the client. And so because of that, you never, your energy is never depleted. In fact, it gets stronger when you actually give a session.
Now, William Rand, how long have you actually practiced Reiki yourself?
Well, since 81. So whatever that works out to.
A
So,
long time.
about 30, over 30 years. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I've only practiced and taught Reiki for 18 years.
Only.
Only.
Yeah, right.
Only. Now, what is Usui Holy Fire Reiki?
Oh, yeah. Well, see now, a little background on this. Asui is the one that actually created what we call Asui Reiki. But during the time that he created it, there already were 4 other types of Reiki being practiced in Japan. So Asui Reiki is the Reiki that became popular and that everyone practices basically. But at the time, there were 4. And so he called his Asui Reiki, it was called Reiki Ryoho. So he called his Asui Reiki Ryoho, indicate that it was his version of Reiki. So it was his style. So some people feel that Asui Reiki is the only style, but actually there were and are actually many styles of Reiki. So when I learned Reiki, I knew immediately that it could be developed. And so I kept an open mind about it. And so eventually I was given the Holy Fire Reiki. And I had been seeing a clairvoyant healer, and she would channel higher consciousness and spiritual beings. She worked with Jesus and the Guru Sai Baba. And so one day we were working, and I'd been getting my energy boosted and strengthened by having sessions with her. And she said, well, there's a new energy coming in, and then it's called Holy Fire Reiki, which was a higher frequency. And so I believed that. I taught the next day, and there were absolutely miraculous things that happened for the students, and it was definitely a even stronger energy than we had been teaching before.
Now, what year was it that you developed Usui Holy Fire Reiki?
Well, that was in January 2014.
Well, I have to give a personal testimony because one of my clients recently this year, he said, Catherine, William Rand is coming to Atlanta and he's going to be teaching Usui Holy Fire Reiki. And I was like, yeah, but I've taught you Reiki and practiced Reiki for 18 years. But I tuned in and I got that it is a higher frequency of Reiki. And I also have to tell this story because during the class, whenever you study Reiki, you also practice Reiki. And William Rand was going around the room and he came to our group. So there were 4 of us and we were practicing. One person would be on the table receiving Reiki and the others of us would be channeling Reiki. And when William Rand got on the table and I had my hands on him, I literally saw Jesus put his hands, Jesus's hands on Mr. Rand. And this was quite significant because I put my hands on people for healing almost every day I go to work. And I had not before seen anyone I had not before seen Jesus in my healing sessions. So I knew for a fact that William Rand is actually has a very close relationship and is actually channeling that frequency. So how did you come to develop Usui Holy Fire Reiki, and what do you think the difference is from the Usui Reiki that we've been all practicing for decades?
Yeah. Well, just a little background on that too. You know, when I first learned Reiki, I went to a practitioner and she had two versions of Reiki. She had sort of a Tibetan style, and that was developed by Arthur Robertson, and he called it Raku Ki. So he was a practitioner of Tibetan shamanism. And then when he learned Reiki, he created a new system called Raku Ki, which was a Tibetan style. So I learned the Tibetan style and I learned the Usui style also. And so I was practicing them. And I thought, well, hey, you know, these are somewhat similar. So I thought, I wonder if I could put them together. I meditated on it and I got, yes, you can actually put them together. So I created the Usui Tibetan method of Reiki, began practicing it, teaching it, and so forth. It was even stronger than the regular Usui. And so what happened is many people actually have as a background that Usui Tibetan method. And because I've been teaching it since, you know, I first started, and quite a long time. And then I knew, though, that it could get stronger. And we were given another style called Karuna Reiki. And that came through, people were bringing me symbols that I hadn't seen before. And I was somewhat mildly interested. I just kept them. But I never used them until someone came to me and said, well, William, you know, we've seen these symbols and other people are using them and there are teachers teaching them, but we've gone to those teachers. We don't like them. We want you to learn how to teach this. So they said, we want you to learn how to teach these new symbols. So then I called together my students and we put together a class, and we called it Sai Baba Reiki at first, because 3 of the symbols were said to come from Sai Baba. And so we were working with that, and people were saying, whoa, this is even stronger than the Usui Reiki you were teaching before. And then we continued to work with it, and eventually we decided to call it Karuna Reiki, because someone went to Sai Baba, and he said he would prefer that we not use his name in conjunction with a healing method. So we called it Karuna Reiki. So we had that in 93, 94, 95. And so I was continuing to look for, you know, even higher frequencies. I was working with a spiritual counselor. She worked with Jesus and Sai Baba. And so that's when in January of 2014, we I was given the Holy Fire energy. And so the Holy Fire is kind of unique because it's been around for a long, long time. It's actually mentioned in the Bible. So it's been around since the beginning of time. And so the thing is, though, in the Bible, the Holy Fire it comes intermittently. It's very difficult to actually get it to work. But by creating a form of Reiki, it means that Holy Fire Reiki is something you can use anytime you want, you know, just like regular Reiki. So you get the what we call ignitions for it. We call them ignitions rather than attunements because the flame of the Holy Fire is actually ignited inside each person. So that's why we call it an ignition. And after that, you can just put your hands on people and you have Holy Fire Reiki. So it was developed like that.
Now, many of our audience would, of course, probably be familiar with Jesus, but for our audience, who is Sai Baba?
Yeah, well, Sai Baba was a very powerful guru in India. He was what you would call ecumenical. He wasn't following Hinduism or Buddhism or anything like that. He acknowledged all the religions of the world, and he had tremendous healing power, and he was often manifested miracles. He could manifest things out of thin air and so forth. So very powerful guru. And then the reason I initially called it Sai Baba Reiki was because we were told that 3 of the symbols came from Sai Baba. So I thought that would be a good name for it. But then we checked in and we were told, no, Sai Baba didn't actually channel those symbols. And he'd prefer that you not call it Sai Baba Reiki. So we changed the name to Karuna. And then, Sai Baba, though, was a powerful guru. Several years ago, he did pass on. And what he came to me and said he's going to give all of his responsibilities over to Jesus. And so Jesus and Sai Baba were like friends, buddies. And so he transferred his responsibilities to Jesus and he said that Jesus would take over and work with me in the same way that he was working with me.
Now, for our audience, one of the things that I'm always pointing out to my clients, if you're listening and you only get this one point, this could save your life. All illness and all disease is simply slowed down vibration. Now, we've all had that experience. If you've ever been into a hospital or a nursing home is a great example where the chi is so slowed down, where people, lots of people together, unwell and aging, the vitality is very low. So when you want to heal, you have to increase your vibration. And how do you do that? You put yourself in a frequency of unconditional love. And how would you describe the frequency of Reiki?
Good question. Now, yeah, chi. Now, there's actually there's many different kinds of chi. And also the word ki is the Japanese word for chi. So Reiki is a kind of ki. So it's a Reiki type of ki. And so we have chi or ki in our body now, and it's affected by our mind. So when we think positive thoughts, it actually has a very positive effect on our aura. And we used to use divining rods to measure the size of a person's aura, and then we would have them think a negative thought, and boom, it'd go way down, we'd go way in, very close to the body, or we'd have them think a positive thought, and it'd get expand way out. So our mind affects our chi or ki, and so when we think negative thoughts, it actually depletes our ki. And there are different types of thoughts affect different organs of the body. And so that's basically why we get sick, is if we have negative thoughts in our mind, or we see negative things, we see negative newscasts, and people are talking about negative things. And, people sometimes may come over and start telling you about all these horrible things that are going on. And well, it lowers your vibration. And so just like you're saying, it lowers your vibration. Your aura actually gets smaller. And so your ki doesn't have as much vitality in it to actually maintain the health process. And so organs of your body can get sick, and you can actually contract an illness or just feel depleted or weak. So Reiki is ki that's guided by the supreme being, higher power, divine mind. And so because of that, it's a very special kind of ki. So when we do Reiki on ourselves, it's not affected by our minds. It can't be lowered in vibration. It's coming in with a very high vibration, and it goes into the body. It finds where you have low vibration. It finds where the organs might be unhealthy or not functioning properly, and it boosts up their ki and gets them going properly, sort of like kickstarts them, like getting a car started. You push it to get it started. It gets the organs started, at the higher vibration where they can then take over and maintain their own health. So Reiki is a way of just raising your vibration. So Reiki is a special type of ki that's generated by the divine mind.
And William Brand, what is Karuna Reiki?
Karuna Reiki, that was the type of Reiki I developed. Like I was saying, people brought me different symbols that were not what I thought of as Reiki symbols. But then eventually we decided to ask for guidance and said some prayers, put the symbols on the floor, and we were guided to use certain of them. The Karuna Reiki has 8 treatment symbols, and it has, the master symbol that it's called Holy Fire Karuna Reiki. So we're using the Holy Fire symbol as the master symbol for Karuna Reiki. But it does have 8 treatment symbols, different than the 3 or 4 that are used in the Sui Reiki.
And how many Reiki symbols are there?
Well, that's a good question, because so many people, began channeling so many different symbols. But in the Asui system, there's basically 4. There's what we call the power symbol, and that increases the strength of Reiki. There's the mental emotional symbol for emotional things, healing the mind, and so forth. And there's the distance symbol that allows you to send Reiki at a distance to people that are far away. So you can, with that symbol, you can send it to people in another city, another state, another part of the world, so that it allows you to send it at a distance. And then the master symbol would be the fourth symbol. So 4 basic symbols, and they have those purposes. But with Karuna, then we have 8 additional symbols that have additional features and different ways that they work.
Now, how was Reiki actually developed? You hear the story about Dr. Asui going to the mountaintop and coming down and stubbing his toe and putting his hand on his toe and so on. But you've studied Reiki and taught it longer than anyone I know. So what's your understanding about how Reiki was developed?
Yeah, that is part of it. So Asui actually, he was actually seeking method. He was seeking a method of helping people become enlightened. And so he studied Zen meditation for 3 years, and he still didn't feel that he was enlightened. And he asked his Zen master what he could do, and he said, well, you need to fast and meditate on a holy mountain. And so he guided him to go to Mount Kurama. He went to the top of the mountain. And to keep track of time, he set out 21 stones, and then each day he would toss a stone away so that he would know how much time had went by. And at the end of the 21st stone, he tossed it away. Nothing happened. He stood up, and this was midnight, and a great light came down through the top of his head and went through his whole body. And because he had been fasting previously, he felt very weak. But then suddenly he had this tremendous energy and was so powerful, he knocked him unconscious. He fell down. And then in the morning, he woke up and he was just filled with tremendous light and energy and power. And, he was wanting enlightenment, which he felt, yes. And he said to himself, I am in the universe and the universe is in me. And so he felt he was one with everything. He was very excited. He went running down the mountain. He tripped on a root. And I've been to Mount Karama. There's lots of exposed roots there. So you could see how he would do that. He tripped on a root and his toenail broke back all the way back. And so he put his hands on his toe. He's going, oh, my toe, not knowing that he had healing. And suddenly this healing energy starts flowing. And so it healed the toe. And he realized, oh, my goodness, not only am I enlightened, but I have healing energy. And so he was also seeking his purpose in life. And so when the healing energy flowed, he realized this is my purpose, to be a healer and to train others. So then he went down more slowly, went back to Kyoto, began working with people. And then at first, his training was very slow. And what he would do is hold a person's hands and give the person's hands Reiki. And very slowly, they would develop Reiki. And then what happened, there was a great Kanto earthquake, and many thousands of people were injured, some died. And he had so many people to work on that he needed a faster way to train. So he prayed and asked that he would be shown a fast way to train people. That's when he received the attunement energy. And then he began doing attunements. And so the attunement instantly gives the person Reiki, a powerful type of Reiki, whereas the other style took a very long time and was not very powerful. So he received the ability to do attunements. And at first, his attunements were done sort of haphazardly. He would just touch a part of the person's body. But when it came time to teach, then he developed the formal attunement method. And so then he was able to teach that method to others. And then he taught a man named Dr. Hayashi. And then Usui passed on. Hayashi carried on the work. Eventually, Takada learned Reiki. Hayashi died, and Takada was the one that carried it on and brought it to the West. So that's a little background about how this all came about.
Now, I know that when I studied Asui Holy Fire Reiki with you, one of the things that I received not only was a certificate, but sort of a chart of who your Reiki was come from. So kind of like people can have a family tree, you can also have a flow chart, if you will, of where your Reiki comes from. And you've studied with the 4 top Reiki masters in the world who preceded you, correct?
Yeah, I sought out the best teachers I could find. I've studied with even more than that, and because the thing I knew is that although when you receive Reiki from any teacher, you do receive the ability to do Reiki, that each teacher learns sometimes a little and sometimes a lot more than the other teachers know. So I knew that by studying with other teachers, I would learn more, and I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could. And I went to Japan. I studied with Hiroshi Doi Sensei and Yakutin Inamoto Sensei also, and other teachers, so that I could acquire as broad and deep of an understanding of Reiki as possible.
Now, can people of all religions benefit from Reiki?
Yeah, Reiki is spiritual because we're using that spiritual energy, the life energy that has a spiritual origin, but it's not religious. So there's no dogma. We're not saying you have to become a Reiki practitioner and otherwise you'll go to hell, or if you do, you're going to hell. We don't say that. So it's non-religious, and so what we find is that people of all religious backgrounds can study Reiki, and they can take the Reiki classes and learn how to do healing. And most religions do teach about healing, and so Reiki is just a way of helping people become more connected to their spiritual and religious beliefs, because then the God power, the life energy is flowing through them more strongly, and they can do healing. So it does seem to enhance a person's religious convictions if they are religious.
One of the many things that I like about Reiki, it's probably the simplest form of healing that I do, but you can do Reiki anytime, anywhere. You can be out in the woods by yourself or out in your woods with a friend or family member. And if you've got Reiki, you're able to channel healing energy anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, that's one of the values of it. Like you watching television, people say, "Oh, television's not so good." Well, yeah, but I'm doing Reiki. You know what I mean? So, or you're riding on the bus, you're on an airplane, or just relaxing somewhere. You can put your hands on your legs and think of Reiki. It starts flowing. So, yeah, the Reiki is always available for you to use, and any spare moment you have, you can be doing Reiki on yourself. You're waiting for a doctor's appointment, or you're something like that. You can be doing Reiki on yourself, and it boosts your vibration. You feel good. It feels like a wonderful glowing radiance is flowing through you. So it keeps your vibration up and very positive.
Now, what should people look for when they're trying to find a good Reiki practitioner?
Well, there are quite a few different practitioners out there. So I think the first thing a person should do is either say a prayer asking for guidance, that they would be guided to the Reiki practitioner that is right for them, or just use their intuition and sort of, when they're learning about different teachers, intuitively just sense, is that the right teacher for them? So I recommend people use their own intuition or ask to be guided through prayer to the right teacher.
What sort of conditions does Reiki heal?
Well, ultimately, Reiki does benefit or help every condition. We don't say that it heals everything. We can't say that really, but we know from experience that it does help virtually every single condition a person would ever have, from simple things like bee stings and toothaches and stomach aches, or just fatigue, or anything like, and also leukemia and heart disease and cancer and things like that. People have definitely benefited who have those very serious illnesses. But we also say that in addition to using Reiki, if you have a medical condition, you should be under the care of a doctor as well. But people have done all of those things and they've benefited. Sometimes there are miraculous healings that take place. It also tends to reduce the negative effects of medical treatment. So with radiation and with chemotherapy, a person can actually feel sick from those. Well, Reiki tends to counteract that. And so a person can receive the full set of chemotherapy that they're supposed to get without feeling the negative side effects. And so that's very beneficial along those lines, because sometimes the chemo is so difficult that they can't take the whole thing. This helps a person to receive the whole set of chemotherapy sessions or the radiation. So it really is beneficial in that way. Doctors and nurses actually use it. It's used in over 800 hospitals around the country. So they acknowledge the benefit of Reiki.
Now, it's my experience that when people are being treated for cancer, as you mentioned with chemo and radiation, that the chemo and radiation, although they definitely have benefits, and I encourage my cancer clients to continue to work with their medical doctors, as you mentioned. But those treatments tend, from what I see as a medical intuitive, is they tend to dissolve and damage the aura. So it's a law of physics that anytime there's a vertical electrical current, there's a magnetic field perpendicular to that. And I feel that anyone who is undergoing traditional cancer treatment greatly benefits from receiving Reiki. What's
Absolutely.
your,
Yeah,
what's
I agree with that. Yes, absolutely. I've had cancer patients come to me, and then I mentioned to them, well, we can give you treatments and it'll be very helpful. And they come right after the chemo, and they're saying it's really helpful. Sometimes they come before the chemo too. That's beneficial also. But then I encouraged them to actually take a class, learn Reiki themselves. So the man had, this one couple, the man had cancer, and the both of them came and they took the training, and then the wife, took over and began giving the man treatments, and he completely recovered. And they were so happy, they went on a vacation, after that to celebrate.
So William Rand, you're the president of the International Center for Reiki Training. If you were going to guesstimate how many people, how many thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people around the world actually practice Reiki?
Yeah, that's a good question, because there is no official record of that. But just an estimating, I would say there are several million people that practice Reiki around the world. It has become very popular in India. It's catching on in many other countries throughout Europe. So yeah, several million actually actively practicing.
Now, what are the benefits of being attuned to Reiki? When I used to do the Usui Reiki attunements, which is again the old way before you develop the Usui Holy Fire Reiki ignitions, it would be very interesting to me to give an attunement, because you could actually see people's vibration changing, and they would go through a definite process as they became attuned to Reiki. So what do you think are the benefits for people being attuned to Reiki?
Yeah, it's definitely beneficial. And before Holy Fire, we had the healing attunement, and then we developed that into the Holy Fire healing experience, which is like an attunement. And so, yeah, the attunements are very beneficial. I think that's one of the more powerful parts of taking a class, and it gives you the ability to do Reiki when it's taught in a class. So the attunements are, I think, a unique attunements, placements, and ignitions, very powerful, miraculous kind of thing. The energy comes in more strongly, and the person then receives the ability to do, Holy Fire Reiki with the ignitions. Mm-hmm.
Now, do you think receiving a Reiki attunement or a Holy Fire Reiki ignition shifts an individual's vibration inside of themselves?
Certainly it does, yeah. So we have tremendous potential. And unfortunately, the culture that we live in and society, it has a lower vibration than and it kind of holds us back. But the attunements and the ignitions and placements, they suddenly raise your vibration. It taps into the very deep level of a person's core, and it opens up and awakens part of their core being that then can come up and express more fully in their current life. And so because of that, it raises their vibration. They have a higher level of consciousness. Some people begin to see auras. They remember past life experiences that are useful for them now in this lifetime. They have more vitality. There's less often do they get sick, and they have more confidence, more courage, and especially they have the courage to do things that they always wanted to do, but they were a little hesitant to ever get involved. And so suddenly, boom, they go out there and start doing all the things that they always wanted to do, but just didn't have the motivation or the energy or the confidence to actually do it.
Now, I know, William, that I've practiced Reiki with all kinds of animals, and animals really respond very well to Reiki healing. For example, I can remember one of my friends, her dog was elderly and was having hip problems and could hardly get up and walk. And I had the friend hold her dog, and then I channeled Reiki to the dog, and the dog was so happy when it was like, oh God, thank God, I feel so much better. So we know that animals can benefit from receiving Reiki, animals of all kinds, but can animals be attuned to Reiki?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, yeah. Animals love Reiki, and they live in that energy world all the time, and they can feel the energies, aware of it, and that's basically how they function. And so they know Reiki is beneficial. And yes, animals can be attuned to Reiki. Now, there are interesting stories around that. So there's this one woman had a cat named Willie, and she began to give the cat. What would happen with the cat though before that is that she would be in her room giving a treatment on someone, and the door would be closed to keep Willie out. And then Willie, she saw, was putting his paws underneath, like putting them underneath the door. And so, and so eventually she thought, well, maybe I should give Willie an attunement. So she gave her cat an attunement, and Willie knew exactly what to do. And so she let the cat in the room, and the cat would actually put his paws on the person, doing Reiki on the person while she was giving a treatment also. And people would come over to visit, and the cat would come up and know where they needed Reiki and put his paws there and give the person Reiki. And even on, like, I guess, on the hand, put the paws on the hand. And even if the person moved the hand around, the paws around with the hand to keep them on the hand, giving the hand Reiki. So, and dogs have been attuned, even horses and other animals have received attunements. And people have noticed who are sensitive that the horse is giving other horses attunements because they got the master level. So eventually the whole herd had Reiki.
That's kind of fun. I know my dog Dixie, I don't let her interact with all of my clients, but she's naturally compassionate. And especially my little kid clients and my teenager clients, they need her.
Wow,
They
yeah.
relate to my dog in ways they're not able to relate to me. And a lot of times if I'm doing Reiki with a young person, I'll even allow my dog, like you said, to be on the table with that young person. Sometimes my older clients also, I ask their permission, but the dog loves it and the clients love it, and it creates a very warm, loving environment.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing to work with animals and how much they really like Reiki and actually, do help others with their Reiki. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, William Rand, how can Reiki help us create sacred space? Because I know those of us who have healing practices, one of the things that we want to do is we want to clear the energy in our space on a regular basis, just like you dust and you vacuum and you clean the windows. But we also need to clear the space and create sacred space. So how can Reiki help us create sacred space?
Well, there are many ways to do that. Basically, once you take second level, you got some of the symbols, you can use them. And, or if not, you can just use your Reiki. So I would recommend a person just sit for a moment and do Reiki on themselves, letting the Reiki flow through them. And then they can put their hands up and go around the room, giving Reiki to the walls, ceiling, floor. Negative energies tend to accumulate in the corners. So especially the corners and around, you just be guided. And you're giving Reiki all over the whole room and just filling the room with this wonderful, loving, healing energy of Reiki. And so, that's especially important if you happen to have a friend come over and tell you, she tells you all the bad things that are happening to them and then leaves. And you're like, ooh, your room, the house. Oh, so you got to send Reiki and clear out all that negativity that's been dumped there. So yeah, you can maintain your space, maintain sacred space in your home by doing Reiki in that way. Another way, you can also walk out in front of your house and just sit on the grass there and just kind of be beaming Reiki with your hands, to the home, all around and so forth, and just filling the home and the outer edges of the home with Reiki. Houses and objects also have auras, and so you actually, healing the aura of the house. And when you're very sensitive, you notice too that objects and things, especially that are used a lot by people, have almost like a spirit to them. And so the spirit of the house really loves getting Reiki and benefits from it.
Yeah, I recommend that if you have a healing room that you use, whether it's in your home or your office, that you clear the energy in that space on a daily basis. And you want to use, some people use essential oils. I love essential oils, but I recommend that you use energy to clear energy. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, yeah. It works, it's very effective in that way. And also, as you start to do it, you start to be more perceptive and you can kind of see dark, misty energy and you send it Reiki and you see it dissipating and going away. So you can start to see these energies and start to work with the energy in your home, making, giving it a very high vibration. It's real good to do that before you have a party or before you have a Reiki client come over or a guest or anything like that to really raise the vibration. And after they leave, also look around and clear the space and making sure that anything they left there is released, that is not of a positive nature. So you can use Reiki just maintain the vibratory level of your home.
Yeah, I have to tell a story because here in the US, we have to have a termite inspection, and basically we have to have our homes inspected for bugs on an annual basis as a part of maintaining your homeowners insurance. And in January, the bug man came over, inspected my house, and when he had handed me the paperwork to sign that he'd been here, he said to me, "Catherine, your home has great energy." I was like, it's
Great.
so obvious, even the bug man can tell.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. It makes me think like, well, there should be a Reiki instead of, in addition to the bug man, also the, energy people going around, clearing negative energy out of, homes and so forth, working like that.
Yes, absolutely. It's a very important part of feng shui is to mean beneficial energy in your home. Now, William Rand, you've practiced and taught Reiki for over 30 years all around the world. What do you do to maintain your own health and vitality?
Well, I guess I'm fortunate. Well, first of all, the main thing I do is I do sessions on myself. Like right now, I'm doing Reiki on myself as I'm talking, and it's just a wonderful energy. And also, I get sessions from others. And the thing I'm doing, because I teach so much, I have my students give me Reiki, and sometimes I get the whole class, like 13 or 15 people, all giving me Reiki at the same time. It's absolutely fantastic. So I guess just teaching the classes and receiving Reiki from my students is one of the big things I do. But of course, self treatments and Reiki can also guide us in a way that's appropriate to raise our vibration as well. So if there's anything we're doing that isn't healthy, we know we were told about it, and so we can change our behavior. And it can help us attract new friends that have a higher vibration and things like that. That's what I
So
do.
when people receive the Usui Holy Fire Reiki ignitions or the Usui Reiki attunements, how do you feel? Because you've watched this and thousands of students over the years, how do you think people change when they become attuned to Reiki healing energy?
Well, one of the things about Reiki is it can be used for virtually everything. So anything in your life that isn't working properly, whether it's physical health or whether it's a situation at work or whether it's just a life situation in general, Reiki can benefit it. So what I see is that people suddenly have a whole new attitude, a very positive attitude towards their lives because the things that have really bothered them and bugged them about things going on in their life, they realize now they can do something about it. And so I think that whole shift in attitude, like now they have a tool they can use for virtually every situation that might come up, whether it's a relationship or whether it's a health issue or whether it's a project that they're working on or a goal they want to achieve, they can use Reiki. And so it just seems like the person's attitude shifts over, becomes much more positive about the possibilities they have for their life after Reiki.
Now, William Rand, president of the International Center for Reiki Training, any final thoughts that you would like to leave our audience about Reiki?
I would say that life has unlimited possibilities, and it's a matter of us just being open to that and seeing how that might manifest for us in terms of how our lives can be transformed and uplifted. And of course, getting Reiki training would be a very important tool to help people in fulfilling that purpose.
Yeah, and as a medical intuitive healer with 25 years of full-time experience in natural healing, I recommend that anyone who is serious about becoming a healer receive Reiki, no matter what modality you're going to be working with primarily, because it will raise your vibration, and it's such an easy tool to use anytime, anywhere. You've been listening.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to William Rand, president of the International Center for Reiki Training. You can find out more about William and his work at reiki.org. This is Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. Find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, sign up for my newsletter so that you can find out even more about how to heal yourself naturally. And remember, when you use Reiki, you raise the vibration of yourself and everyone around you. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.